I'm Miss Brenna, and today I'm reading a chapter from The Stray and the Strangers by Steven Heighton and illustrated by Melissa Iwai. This book chapter is read with the kind permission of Groundwood Books. The book is based on a true story and recommended for grades 2 through 5 by Novelist Plus. Chapter 1, Boat Strangers. The steep, narrow streets of the island town swarmed with stray dogs, and almost all of them looked alike. They were middle-sized, spotted brown on gray, and they had sharp, alert-looking ears. There was one exception. She was smaller and scrawnier than the others. Her whole pelt was the color of cinnamon except for her paws, which were white as if she were wearing socks. Her long brown ears drooped like vine leaves wilted at the end of summer. An old fisherman was the first to call her Canella, the Greek word for cinnamon. "She must have come here as a stowaway on one of your boats," he teased the younger men. "You never seem to know what you've got aboard." In the harbor, the fishermen would sort their catch and fling the smaller, unwanted fish onto the pier. Canella waited there each day beside a mob of stout, cantankerous cats. She lay flat on her empty belly, half hidden behind coils of rope or piles of netting that smelled of brine and seaweed. Whenever she tried to creep closer, the cats would hiss like vipers. The old man chuckled as the young ones tried to tease him back. "We know the dog arrived on your boat, old man." "That's right. They say you found her in your nets with the bass." "No, with the shrimp. She isn't much bigger." "The old man's eyes are too weak to see the difference. Or maybe she swam here from Turkey," said another, pointing across the water to a mountainous shore. "The eels wouldn't bother to eat her, skinny as she is." "You think she's strong enough to swim that far?" "Why don't we throw her in and find out?" The fishermen went on laughing and tossing scraps at the strays. As the cats pounced, shrieking quarrels would erupt. If a fish head or tiny squid slapped down near Canella, she would dart out, sweep it up in her jaws, and flee. The fishermen cheered and chanted her name whenever she managed this feat. "Look, the runt has done it again. Clever girl." "If she's so clever, why doesn't she find food at the dump like the other dogs?" "I hear the others chase her away." She only knew a few of the words, but she understood the tone, cheerful and good-hearted. Still, she never approached the men or let them touch her. To her, all the townspeople were frightening giants, even the children. As for the island's summer visitors, they were even bigger and louder. They would loom and lumber toward her, trying to pat her or scoop her up into their arms, and insult as if she were a mere puppy. When her stomach ached a little less, she would trot uphill through a labyrinth of cobblestone lanes and stairways to the top of the town. There she slept in a hollow in the trunk of an olive tree that grew by the wall of a ruined castle. This had been her home for 2 hot, dry summers and rainy winters, as far back as she could remember. Other strays never climbed up here. It was too far above the harbor where the boats came in, too far from the dump, too far from the restaurants that threw out so much food in the busy summers. Her burrow was safe, but in the winter it was cold, and all year round it was lonely. One day the boats returned to the harbor early, riding low in the water as if they were loaded with a heavy catch. Yet Canella's twitching nose caught no scent of fish. The decks of the boats were crowded with strangers. They looked and sounded nothing like the people of the town. Many wore bright orange vests over ragged clothing that was sopping wet, as if the fishermen had hauled them out of the sea. Dark scarves covered the hair of the women. The children shivered the way Canella did every winter when the winds carved the sea into steep, frothing waves, and the boats huddled in the harbor for days. The fishermen helped the strangers climb down onto the pier, where they stood or sat in trembling clusters. The old fisherman called in a shaking voice to people at the restaurants along the pier, "Come, help us! They are cold and hungry. We need a doctor." Soon people emerged from the restaurants with water and platters of food, but some of the strangers seemed too ill and weary to eat. Canella watched hungrily as the bolder dogs and cats darted in among their wet shoes to seize fallen bits of bread, cheese, or fish. The animals worked quickly, afraid of being kicked or chased. Yet it was the strangers who flinched and backed away, as if they were the ones who should be frightened. As the spring sun climbed higher and grew hotter, more and more strangers arrived on the island. Some continued to come on the fishing boats. Others appeared, sodden and silent, up on the olive green decks of the Coast Guard ships. But most of them landed in black rubber rafts so crammed with passengers that they seemed more under water than above. Canella's sharp eyes would spot the rafts crawling across the sea as she stood outside her burrow above the town. Then she would hurry down to the harbor. She was hoping to find scraps of food left on the pier, but she was also curious. Where did the strangers come from? They shrank away from cats and dogs, so they scared her a little less than the townspeople did. Wherever they came from, they were weary, tired, and thin. Strangers of another kind were arriving now too. They came not over the sea, but along the highway in cars and buses. Many of them looked and sounded like the summer tourists, yet these people didn't climb up to visit the castle or swim in the sea. They walked fast and spoke urgently. Day and night they were in the harbor, bringing blankets, dry clothes, and food to the boat strangers. Sometimes they helped carry sick people off the rafts onto the pier. The sick people would lie under blankets while helpers knelt beside them or rushed around them, pointing and hollering. Canella knew what it meant to be so hungry and tired that you could hardly stand up. Still, she did not move in to take the scraps that the helpers sometimes fed to the other dogs. Then one day, she saw one of the rescued children give a piece of cheese to a cat. The child did not seem afraid, even when her parents pulled her back and scolded her. Canella could almost imagine accepting food from a hand that small. I hope you enjoyed this chapter reading of The Stray and the Strangers. If you would like to read the rest of this book, you can reserve a copy from your local Lake County Public Library branch. If you read it, write in and tell us what you thought at kids@lcplin.org. Bye. Have a great day.